All right, everybody, we are back and we are talking more about integrated theories. And in this subsection, I'm going to talk to you about, very briefly, about a few of the different examples of integrated theories that have taken pieces of all the other theories we've learned about for this course and put them together into what is hopefully kind of a broader, more impactful, more useful explanation of criminal behavior. And again, there are much more than this that I'm about to talk about. This is just a few of them, and I'm only going to kind of briefly touch on each one of these. But the first one we're going to talk about here is the social support and coercion. And this is from two different researchers, Cullen and Colvin, who actually independently, one of them came up with social support and one of them came up with coercion. And then a few years later, they kind of realized, wow, these really work together. So they came together to kind of combine their two individual ideas. And the basic version of this is that there are two different factors at play when it comes to criminality. There's social support, which helps prevent people from committing crime, and there's coercion, which helps push people towards crime. And for each one of those categories, they bring in kind of variables or ideas from other theories, right? So the coercion part of it, you bring in things like strain, right? So when strains happen, that is pushing towards crime. The coercive family discipline, if your family has really harsh or really neglectful discipline, which brings in, social bonding theories and such. Then there's repression, which brings in kind of power control theories. And then, all of these sources of coercion are either interpersonal, meaning from those around us, family, friends, peers, etc., or impersonal, meaning economic factors, criminal justice system factors, things like that. But crime can also be prevented through the ideas of social support, which are things like attachment to conventional peers, which brings in, differential association elements, or a close, tight-knit, small community, which brings in elements from social disorganization, right? So you get both the coercions and the social supports and the kind of differing levels of those and different durations of those and different kind of relative power of those of factors under those two umbrellas is what determines whether somebody will end up committing crime or not. So again, very simplistic explanation. There's much more to this. One of the more common, one of the more famous, one of the more kind of understood and taught about and researched models is Elliott's model. And Elliott kind of took aspects of strain, social disorganization, control, and learning theory and strung those together. Okay? And this is one of those kind of end-to-end integrated theories where basically strain and social disorganization factors affect bonding and either increase or decrease bonding. And then that bonding can lead to bonding with delinquents, which then results in learning and differential association and definitions conducive to crime, right? So it's kind of, the strain in social disorganization happens first. That affects bonding to conventional, non-criminal factors and people and organizations. And then the lack of those good bonds creates bonds with deviant peers, and then the differential association, definitions, learning theory thing takes over, right? So it's elements from all of those theories that are all impactful and all important. It's not any one of those theories operating kind of in a vacuum. It's all of those theories working together to create crime and delinquency. And this is a really, really interesting one. But, no theory is perfect. Not even this theory. Now, Another integrated theory we want to talk about is Thornberry. And this is similar to Elliott's, but a little bit simpler and brings in the idea of feedback loops, right? And this takes bonds from bonding theory and learning from learning theory and says that if somebody has strong conventional bonds, they won't commit crime. But if somebody has weak conventional bonds, that provides an opportunity for the whole differential association learning theory process to happen. And then if that happens, that does a feedback loop where that then further weakens conventional social bonds, and it becomes a cycle and a circle, right? So we've got this whole feedback loop thing going on. Another one is Tittle's control balance theory. And this is, again, much more complicated than I'm making it out to be. This is a very brief explanation of how this works. But in short, with control balance theory, this says that everybody needs a balance of controls that they're subject to and that they're kind of able to utilize themselves. So when there is a balance between the control that you are subject to, whether that's from parents or bosses or the criminal justice system or whatever, but then there's also you have to have control over other people or other factors, right? And when those are in balance, we don't get crime. But when those are out of balance and you're either subject to too much control or you have too much control over others without being subject to enough control, that's when crime happens, right? So the control deficit crimes, i.e. when others have much more control over you than you have over others, those result in things like, violence and lashing out and frustration. Whereas control surplus crimes, when you have far more control but other people don't, is the explanation for things like, white collar crime and taking advantage of people in more dominant ways, if that makes sense. All right, once again, a very short section. And this is, the idea of integrating theories is a very attractive one. But it gets real complicated real fast. And there are lots of different integrated theories out there, some of which that have more kind of research and support than others. But the important lesson here is we don't have to take any one individual theory as the theory of crime. We can take aspects from multiple theories and say, look, these really work better together than apart. Okay? But anyway, that is the end of this section. If you are still watching, know that I really, really appreciate you joining me for this course. But as always, I will see you in the next one.